Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another night of Fraud Watch. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the story of Tony Menendez, who discovered a bill and hold issue at Halliburton and fought 9 years for justice. So, first of all, a bill and hold issue is essentially someone recognizing revenue at the wrong time. So, as soon as you get a contract in, or sometime in between getting the contract and actually completing the work, you recognize revenue. You say that it's done and the money's received, when in fact, that's not how it works at all. You should wait until the contract begins before you're paid, or any number of other policies. But what you cannot do is recognize it before. This is actually a type of fraud called bill and hold. This is what Tony found at his time at Halliburton. Now, this had been going on for quite some time, and so Tony brings his findings to his boss and the executive team, who agree this is an issue and it's being done incorrect. However, they do not want to correct the issue because it will be expensive and embarrassing. They'd have to go back and restate their financial statements for, I believe, 6 years. It's quite a long time. So, after taking him to the boss and the executive team to no avail, he files a confidential complaint with the SEC. Nothing comes of it. Then he writes to the audit committee on the board of directors at Halliburton. And this becomes a major problem because Tony is outed as the whistleblower. This is a classic type of retaliation. So if a company doesn't want to fire you for blowing the whistle and saying, hey, these people are committing fraud, they'll out you as the whistleblower, essentially let everybody know, or say something terrible about you, like the SEC is investigating you, which is actually the case with Tony. So he is completely ostracized at work, treated horribly, and people essentially avoid him at all costs. He's not involved in any meetings or any of the work, so of course he quits. Now again, remember, this is a classic form of retaliation for an actual fraud that was committed, and he should have been able to keep his name confidential as the whistleblower. So what he does is he files with the SEC for retaliation. He's saying, hey, I blew the whistle, these people retaliated against me, and this is illegal. There should be a case here. SEC disagrees, nothing happens. He then goes to court to say, this is retaliation. Here, judge, take a look at this. The judge says, no, that's not retaliation, and nothing happens. This is over the course of years and years. Finally, he goes to the ARB, which is essentially the appeals court for this wrongful conviction that the judge, or the wrongful decision that the judge gave him, and he wins. He finally wins after all of these attempts at justice. And so it's this incredible story of a very persistent person. One thing that I love, as a bit of a side note, is that in court he asked for $1,000 for his role as whistleblower, which is next to nothing. And the court ended up awarding him $30,000, which is still fairly low. This doesn't go into how grave the situation was, but I found that impressive that after all of his trouble and everything that he went through, he only asked for $1,000. The other reason that I chose this story is that Tony followed the IMA statement of ethical professional practices of how to deal with an ethical dilemma. So when you find fraud, what are you supposed to do about it? You go to your immediate supervisor, done. File a complaint with the SEC, done. File with the audit committee and the board of directors, done. Then after being retaliated against, then he goes to the SEC, which is exactly what you're supposed to do, done. Then he goes to court, which is exactly what you're supposed to do, nothing happens. And then he appeals and he finally wins. So it's just this story of persistence and this crusade for justice, and a person who did everything right. Now, hopefully since then, the process has gotten a little bit better, but we see after, faced after failure and failure, he still is determined to do the right thing. And sometimes that's what it takes to be truly ethical and moral. He made a wonderful comment about how he felt that he had a moral and a professional responsibility to find justice for the stockholders of Halliburton, which is, I think, very impressive and why I love this underdog story. Thank you, and happy holidays.